Everyone's Place is an African culture center located on West North Ave in Baltimore where knowledge meets artistry. The fragrance of incense and the warming welcome given by owners Nati and Tabia and their employees creates a homely feel and makes anyone feel as though Everyone's Place is the place for them. We went to Everyone's Place a little bit worried on what to expect when we were hit with the news that Tabia wasn't going to be there for the interview. Greeted and approached by her friend, which we later figured out was her husband, the humble and wise Nati. When was Everyone's Place established?
We started in 1986, so that would make it 30 years now, right? So we started first grinding on the streets, right? Grinding and hustling right at the streets corners up there, Pennsylvania and North Avenue. And there was a sister and a brother who had what we call in those days a collective community business in the area, and the name of it was Everyone's Place. You see, so what they had was like small vendors and small merchants in the neighborhood would take their wares to that store, and the owners of that store would sell it for them on commission and stuff like that. And we were one of the vendors who used to leave our wares at that store. It so happened that the sister was from Virginia, and when she decided to go back to Virginia in 1986, she asked us if we could take over the store. It was at 1380 West North Avenue, which is just a couple doors up in the same block. It was a one-room store, and so we took it over in 1986, and 4 years later we got this building here, fixed it up and moved into this building. So essentially we started off as street vendors, hustling and grinding on the corner just a block away.
So why was the store originally created?
Well, Tabia, you all spoke with Mama Tabia, right?
Yes.
We went to school together. And while we were in school, there were particular papers we were trying to write, just like you Naji and Maraja trying to write papers right now, right? And there's certain books we couldn't find because there were no black-owned bookstores in Baltimore. If you look at the history of black-owned bookstores in Baltimore, in the 1970s, you had Paul Coates. He had a bookstore called the Black Book. He had it on Pennsylvania Avenue, then he had it on Park Heights, and he had it on North Avenue. But by the time we were in college in the early 80s, he wasn't there no more. Paul Coates, a lot of people will know him now because of his son, right? His son is Ta-Nehisi Coates, best-selling author. We know Ta-Nehisi Coates since he was a little boy, because, if you look in his new book, you'll see he mentioned our store in there, page 35. You'll see he mentioned Everyone's Place when he used to come here as a youth and buy CDs. But we knew him even before that, when he was a little boy, because when we started selling books on the corner, his father had a publishing company that he still has called Black Classic Press. You see, so, Black Classic Press, Paul Coates was the first person who we ever bought books from to sell on the streets corners, But back to the story, we weren't able to find particular books that we needed in Baltimore. We used to have to go to Washington, D.C. The only bookstore we knew at that time was Pyramid Books, owned by a brother named Hodari Ali. He had a bookstore named Pyramid Books on George Avenue, close to Howard University. So we used to go quite there. So we say, you know what? We're gonna establish a bookstore in Baltimore, even before we left school, you see. And in those days, Public Enemy was coming out, and Public Enemy at all the concerts, they would give out copies of Dr. Welshing. At that time, she didn't have the ISIS paper, so it was a small pamphlet called Quest Theory of Color Confrontation. So we say, that is what we're gonna do, but we're gonna do it on the street corners. So that's why we started on the street corners selling, incense, oils, and books.
Why is this bookstore so well respected within the Baltimore community?
Wow, that's a good question. I have to think about that one. Well, first of all, in the times in which we were establishing bookstores were still established as places of collective gathering for conscious people where they could come and talk. You see the name Everyone's Place? We didn't change it. We kept it because we like it. Everyone's Place, you see? So people could always come to Everyone's Place, and talk and deal ideas. That's the history of black bookstores. Black bookstores have a history of being organizing tools for politically conscious people in the community. And so Everyone's Place came out of that historical line of bookstores that acted as meeting places, the same way churches acted as meeting places, for political activity. In the same way bookstores acted as that. If you look at the history of black bookstores, whether it's in New York or in Baltimore, in Washington D.C. or wherever. So I think the respect comes from the fact that we took the bold move to establish a bookstore in Baltimore when there weren't any other bookstores, you see. And we did it in the 1980s when you had organizations like ASCAC, which is the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization, being founded, a lot of our scholars, attending ASCAC and talking about a lot of books, and there are a lot of people looking for books at that particular time, And so at that time they would come to everyone's place, and we've maintained that kind of integrity in the community, which, is always something that people respect, the integrity of, keeping the books that are serious to us, keeping the books that honor our scholars like Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Van Sittimer, and I could go on and on, So that might be, partly, answer to your question.
How has this bookstore changed your life?
Changed my life?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a good question too. In more ways than one, First of all, it has really showed me the importance of literature. I would take literature for granted, and a lot of people in the community take literature for granted until at that point they see that there are certain books that they need that they can't find anymore because they are out of print,
Mm-hmm.
So it really gave me a sense of the importance of literature and the written word. Don't take it for granted. While you could get it, because a lot of people here, come in for books that have been out of print, you can't find it, so grab it. That's important, It also gave me important in terms of commitment to the community, because you see a lot of young people in the community who are looking for direction, and a bookstore helps with that, you see. And also our exchange with the community, because the community come and support us, and we support the community in the same way, whether it's we supporting young brothers in basketball organizations in the community or in other ways, And then it gave us a sense of our importance that I can't stress enough in the community, because when a year ago the riots were going down in the community, Penn North, that was the epicenter, just one block away. People in the community, just came and stood around everyone's place. So.
Such an honor learning about Nati and all the things he has done to help the Baltimore community. Nati does not just stop reaching the world at Baltimore, but he expands his branch through his warehouse called the African World Book, where he spends most of his time distributing books around the world. Everyone's place has a little something for everyone, so make sure you stop in.